right, that looks good. So today I'm going to do a demo on drawing the face. So yesterday you were asked to draw your own face, a self-portrait, which means yourself, and a portrait is head and shoulders, like this. Oops, let me erase my little drawings here. There we go. That's a portrait. Head and shoulders. Same. All right, so all of these are portraits because they show the face mainly and just a little portion of the body. All right. So what I'm going to show you today is how to make a drawing look more like a real person and not something that looks like this. Okay, this is my own drawing. I can make fun of it. So let me throw that away and get a new sheet of paper. First thing we do when we're drawing the face is we want to get the right shape for the head. Usually I use like an egg shape. So an egg sort of has one side that's a little bit more narrow than the other. And I'm going to draw lightly. Usually I'm going to draw darker than usual here because you need to be able to see it on the camera. But when I'm drawing on this this first step here, what I usually do is I draw using my whole arm. I'm not using my fingers like this. I'm not making little marks. I'm going to use my whole arm or my wrist when I'm making this egg shape. And you can see I'm making these sort of long sort of marks with my pencil, going around, trying to, and I keep drawing these lines because I'm trying to make them match up the way I want them to in my head. This line here, you can see that, like that line there is a little too, I didn't like that one, so I do the one on the outside. And eventually I get a shape that I like. I'm going to darken it in just a little bit so you can see it better on the camera. But what I'm not doing is just taking my pencil and going, and trying to draw this egg shape perfect the first time in one line. It's not going to happen. It takes a little bit of sketching, which is what this is I'm doing. Sketching is sort of, it's one of those words that is, what's the onomatopoeia? It sounds like what it is, like pop. Has a popping noise when you say it. I think sketching is, or sketch is a really great word because you make that noise, that sort of, that great scratchy noise when you're drawing. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting weird. Let's fix this up a little bit. I'm erasing those extra lines that I don't need anymore now that I have established the outline of my egg-shaped head. See how it's a little bit more narrow here, a little bit wider up there. And it should be wider up there because you got a brain, right? You need more space for that brain, less space for your mouth. I'm not going to comment on that. All right. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a colored pencil here, and I'm going to draw a line coming off the top of the head and off the bottom where the chin is. So I'm going to draw lines going out to the side here. Oops, and there goes my pencil on the floor. And a line going straight out here. Now I want to find out where halfway between these two lines is. And I'll do this using my fingers. I could get a ruler and do some math, but I don't want to. I want to use my fingers. So I place my fingers on both sides of this arrow that I've drawn, and I'm going to move them together at the same time pretty fast, because if I go slow, then I can like maybe like ooh, ooh, ooh. If I go fast, I can do it a lot quicker and a lot more honestly. And
From what corners did you make the line?
Pardon?
From what corners did you like make the line to make that little box?
From the top of the head and the bottom of the chin.
Thank you.
Yep. So now I want to find out where halfway is between these two lines. And I could do this right on the face itself, and you probably will later on when you get more comfortable with this, but I'm just showing it over here so you can see it much clearer. So I'm going to find the middle part, and it's about there. I'll make the line, and I'll check it again. A little bit above that, right there. That's about halfway. And again, about is good enough for this because not everything is measured with numbers on a face. We want to be a little bit more forgiving. All right, so I now have a halfway point. I'm going to draw a little dashed line across my face, try to make it straight. There we go. Halfway. What feature of the face do you think belongs there? You can say in the chat box or you can come off mute. What feature of the face, like eyes, nose, lips?
Nose.
What do you think belongs there? Okay, we got 1 vote for nose, 2, 3, 4.
Eyes.
We have 1 for eyes, 3 for nose, 4 for nose.
Eyes.
Ooh, neck and neck. We're getting eyes and noses. Eyebrows. Eyes coming out of left field. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you using one of my pictures that I printed off. I'm going to draw a line. It helps that he doesn't have any hair. That's really puffy. I'm going to draw a line going straight out from the top of the head and a line going straight out from the chin. I'm going to find the halfway point. It's about right there. And look what's sitting on that line. It's the eyes. Because when you divide it into half like that, look how big your head is on top. And it's not just him. I'm going to show you on other pictures. Your eyes are halfway between your top of your head and your chin. Let's look on her. She's got kind of a flatter hairdo. It's not really puffy. Halfway between the top right there and the chin. It's right there. And I think this is something that is very, very hard to understand sometimes. There's a reason why a lot of people said nose. If you look at a face like this that has more of a distinctive hairline, unlike this guy here, I understand where this is coming from. So a lot of people think, oh, well, your face is this, right? Technically, yeah, sure, maybe your face is this, but your head, your portrait is all the way to the top of your head. You're forgetting this portion up here. And in this case, he has got, you know, some hair up here. But if I were to draw a line from his hairline to his chin and find the midway point there, we're talking right there, that's the nose. So when people are saying, oh, the halfway point between the top of the head and the chin is the nose, you're thinking this, all right? Problem is, top of his head's more about right there, right? He's got puffy hair, so it's hidden behind there somewhere. So if I now use that as my guide, it moves the line up just slightly, so it's there now, right where his eyes are. So halfway between the top of your head and your chin are your eyes. This is so important to get this right, because if this is wrong, everything else looks weird. And it's just something that, this is the one thing, if you get anything else wrong, this is the one thing you got to get right. All right. So now we know where the eyes belong, but how big are they? Well, sorry, all you anime and manga fans, not manga, oh my God, manga. Don't forget that N or else you're saying something different. Japanese animation, Japanese art. Your eyes are way too big if you like that stuff. Way too big. They're drawing their eyes huge, and that's incorrect. It's not what real people look like. Your eyes actually take up about, I'd say each eye is about a fifth, 1/5 of the width between here and here. And this one's a little bit tougher to figure out. Like I said, you could get a ruler out and try to figure out the math on this. And I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to use a line just outside the edge of the face. So about like right there. All right, just a little bit off the face. I want to divide this space up into 5 equal sections. It's kind of tough. It's not like a even number. You can do half and half. This is different. It's 5. So like I said, if you want to get a ruler out and measure, okay, well, that's 6 inches and a quarter. What's 1/5 of 6 1/4? Well, I don't know. But I do know this. I can use my fingers and I can start to guess. And I want to find a middle section. Using my fingers, I'm going to use my regular pencil just so that if I make a mistake, I can erase it. I'm going to guess this. And I can test it out by moving my fingers and not shifting them, but I'm going to go right there. I'm a little off, but it's pretty darn close. So I just need to bring it in just a little bit more. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let me make those red so they're a little easier to see. There we go. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections across the face. And we're interested in these 2 middle ones because that's where your eyes go. Because you have actually another eye in between your 2 eyes. That's the spacing between your eyeballs. Let's look at this guy again. Here's the inner corner, inner, outer. Look. That's pretty much what I just drew. All right. Now bring it up a little closer to the camera. Those are very, if they're not the same, they're pretty darn close, those 5 sections. And if I make this a little too small or I make it too wide, then the eyes are going to look a little too narrow or a little too wide. And again, it's not just me, it's everybody. A little harder to see on her because her hair's in the way. But you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3. And off to the side, there's the other one. Goes just off the edge of her face. It's actually right where the ears end. At least on those people. So, eyeballs. What shape are our eyes? I mean, you can look at all these pictures of people, look at yourself in the mirror, and everyone's eyes are different shapes. And even on your own face, your eyes might be different shapes from each other. Take a look at her really closely. So this eye has a pretty standard arc. It doesn't really wiggle at all. On the bottom, it wiggles down a little bit right here. And then this one doesn't do that at all. So she has an arc and an arc with no little wiggly droop down there. So look at the shape of her eyes as I outline them. They're different shapes. Yet when I get rid of that, they don't look that different. She's not lopsided. Which is sort of the point, is that, you know, we definitely have different shaped eyes. So when you're drawing your eyes here and they don't match up correctly, you're actually drawing it more realistically than you realize. Because most of us do not have symmetrical eyes. I mean, my one eyeball is higher than the other. So my eyes are actually tilted. So when I draw myself truthfully, I have to make one eye shift up a little bit. But I'm just going to draw something really standard here. I'm going to draw something that's very similar to his eyes, which is sort of, again, very rounded on top and kind of a wave on the bottom. So rounded on top and a bit of a wave on the bottom. And again, if I don't get this correct in the same thing on the other side, That's fine. Try my best. There we go. Eyeballs. Now we need to put the color part in the eye. That's the iris. That's that big round bit in the eye. So we want to get that part in there. And it's a perfect circle. Let's see if she's got really big eyes in the picture. It's a perfect circle if you look at the eyeball there. And if you look at how it touches both the top and the bottom lid, same on him. The round part in his eye touches the top and bottom of his lid. And actually the top part kind of hides underneath the lid a little bit. So when I draw mine, similarly, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find the center point and sort of figure out where in the center part of the eye this big circle is going to exist. And I drew a little like line above, so you can see that it would be a circle if it went above, if you could like open up the eye a little bit and see the whole thing. All right, so now we have some decent looking eyes. And again, like I want you to notice that I'm dividing the eye into like 3 sections. I have the white part of the eye, the color part, and then the white part again, which is the same what's going on here. Your eye is divided, the white part, the color part, and the white part again. So lastly, the last detail, if you can see it, if you have darker eyes, you're not going to see it. And it's the pupil of the eye, which is that black dot directly center of the eye. And again, unless you have lighter eyes, you're not going to be able to see that. So that's, I'm talking about this circle right here in the center of her eye. So on this person, I'm going to draw a black dot. It looks weird right now because the eyes are not shaded in. I'm going to do that much later, but I want to get all the features done first. Now I'm going to, on this other sheet of paper, show you a couple of things I see very often that are not correct. Head shape is going to be one thing, obviously. If you have it too pointy or too round, like this is like an alien head, or if you have it like a ball, those are not correct head shapes. And then, like I say, most people draw their eyes way too high. I'd say 95% of the time when people draw their faces wrong, the eyes are placed way too high. So something like this, and then drawn way too big. So I see this. Or something, I also see this one too. Little beans. Way too high. And then I see this sometimes too. I love drawing these people because they always make me laugh. But I see this all the time from students. All right, so noses. Let's talk about the nose. The nose exists halfway between your eyes and your chin. So let me draw another line on our paper. Halfway between, oopsies, halfway between the eye line and the chin line. I want to find out where halfway between those 2 spots are. Again, I'll use my fingers, figure it out about there, and then draw my line going across the paper as straight as I can. So this is how long your nose is. Your nose is really long. A lot of people want to draw it much smaller than this. Well, they'd be wrong. It needs to be a very large feature on your face because it is a very large feature on your face. It does wonderful things like warm the air before it gets into your lungs, so you stay warm when you're outside instead of freezing from the inside out. It also protects your eyes from having things thrown at it. It's like a gatekeeper from having something. If you get hit in the face with like a baseball or a 2x4, it'll break your nose, but it won't blind you, hopefully, which is why We've evolved that way. It's kind of interesting. Okay. So the face here, we're going to draw a line coming from the corner of the eye or just inside that first part of the whites of the eyes. Let me elevate this a little bit. So if you look at our faces here, I'm going to draw a line going straight up from the corner of her eye and see where, I'm sorry, the corner of her nose, and see where it touches the eye. Look at that, right in the corners. Draw a line going straight up from the corner of his nose. And it touches right in, can you see that? The beginning part of the white of his eyes. Same thing's going to happen over here. It's going to intersect right inside the corner, right inside the whites of his eyes. I'm making these people look like Halloween horror victims, like their eyes are bleeding. It's really funny. Anyway. You can do like little. Okay, I'm having too much fun. All right. Let's draw a line going down the face from the corner of the eye or just inside the corner of the eye. It doesn't have to be exactly in the corner. I'm going to go a little bit inside. And that's how wide the nose is. And noses, I know people struggle with them. I'm going to show you the easiest way to draw a nose. I draw parentheses. And then I draw a wiggle. There's my nose, or a nose. And I can manipulate this so much in so many different ways by just shifting the shape of these lines or the placement of these lines. So if you have a nose that maybe is a little more pointed, the wiggle in the middle will just have to come down a little bit more or have a little more pronounced tip. I can shift these lines up and have the nose even have more of like a tip down. And there's not a big difference between these three, but these are three very different looking noses. All right. And if you don't believe me, parentheses and a wiggle. Oops. Look at that. I'm not lying to you. This is a really easy way of drawing noses. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing on my face, or the face I'm drawing. It's not my face. I'm not looking in a mirror, so it's not me. I'm going to draw the parentheses. And the wiggle is going to touch this bottom line here. There we go. Looks pretty good though, doesn't it, for being just a couple of lines? And what's going to make this look more like a real authentic nose is going to be the shading that I put on later. But I have put it in the right spot, so it's going to start looking more realistic no matter what I do. The other thing I'm not going to draw here, I'm not going to draw that line that a lot of people like to draw. And that line is problematic because a lot of times people draw it as if it's coming from the corner of the eye. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. First off, I'm going to show you, these are the noses I see a lot. I call this the dog paw because it looks like a cartoon dog's foot. And then I also see something I like to call the reverse Batman cape. It's an upside down cape. It's so pointy, and I see this all the time when students are drawing their faces, or not just students, anybody's drawing their face for the first time. It's so sharp. Ouch. So, and then what I often see is something like this, where there's the line connecting it to the corner of the eye. And that's not, I don't know why people do that, but I see it so much. Oh no, these poor souls. When you look at a person's actual face, let's look at this guy, because I can see a nice, he's got a big nose, so it has a good shadow. I'm talking about this line right here. Look at this line that's being created by the shadow. Look how far away it is from the corner of his eye. It's going right by. It's driving right by the corner of his eye. The same thing's happening on this side. It's actually more attached to the eyebrow than the eye itself. Right? This is the slope of the nose as it's sort of coming off the face and going toward the cheek. All right, so we don't connect the nose to the corner of the eye. We use this as a measurement of how wide the nose is. We don't attach those two things. All right, so if I had to, if my body was like, you must draw that line, I would draw something like this. All right, it's next to the eye, but it's going by, it's bypassing it. Okay. Mouth. This person needs to talk. So halfway between the nose and the chin. Another halfway thing, you can almost eyeball this one, or if you want to measure it again with your fingers, go right ahead. It's about right there. Double check. Yep. Draw that line going across the face. This is where your bottom lip is going to sit. It's going to sit right on that line like a shelf. And how wide is it? It's as wide, let me find some pictures here, as the whites of your eyes, right in the beginning part of your eye. I draw a line from the corner of his mouth straight up. Actually, no, I'm taking that back. It's the, this is the wrong measurement. It's the iris, the color part of the eye. And again, you can look at in the mirror and you can see all of this for yourself. Corner of the mouth, straight up, it's going to touch the color part of the eye. And it's going to be that first part of the color part of the eye right before or right into the pupil. So if I use that as a guide on the face I'm drawing, then the mouth should be about this wide. Oops, wrong color. But it's not as narrow as the nose. I see so many people drawing their mouth super small, where it's as wide as their mouth or as their nose. They'll draw their lips like this tiny little butterfly came and like landed on their face. I'm sorry, but I always amuse myself with these little drawings. Or and sometimes too, they draw them way too wide and really long and thin, like that. Oh, these poor souls. Okay. Lips. Now, I 100% admit here, I struggle drawing lips. I always have, and I have been trying to get better over the years. And I have, and this is all going to be available to you as well. Handouts. I've got these handouts. And the one thing I love about these handouts, especially the lip one, look at the difference between all these lips. There's so many different shapes. And then I have another one that looks like this. Some of these aren't even like fully formed, they're more like wiggles, like what I did with the nose. It was more cartoonish, but you still get the idea. Like, look at all the different shapes you can create with the lips. But I'm going to use this one. And if I was drawing my face, I would look at this chart here and see which pair of lips looks more like my mouth. And I would try to draw that same shape that I see on this paper within the boundary I just created. And knowing myself and knowing my own mouth, I know that I have a mouth that does this. It's frowning when I'm at rest. It's people call it resting mean face or something a little more naughtier than that. But I definitely have a resting mean face. So, and that's because my mouth is a frown when I'm not engaging it. And also I have like eyebrows that are really angular, so I look like I'm always sad or mad. But I'm going to choose one of those because why not? Let's do, I'm going to do this one here with a thinner upper lip and the thicker lower lip. I'm going to draw that one on this drawing. So I want to have the lower lip touch and sit on this line that I've drawn, the halfway point. And then I see it curves up very slightly to the corners, like a weird smile. Oh my God, if I left it like that, it would look so goofy. Then I want to draw this line, which is going to go, oops, I actually probably should have this down a little further. Okay, then I'm going to come and draw this line sweeping up and then back down. And then the upper lip is pretty close to the line I just drew. It's skinny on the ends, kind of wavy in the middle. I'd say that's pretty decent. And look, see how I struggled with this one? But it looks all right. I'll take it. Not too bad. There we go. And when you're drawing a face like this, it's going to look like the person's really sad or upset, because when our faces are not engaged and smiling or making, different expressions, we just look like we're really upset or thinking about something terrible all the time. I know, and I'm sorry that you have to draw yourself looking so sad, but this is the face at rest. When you start smiling or changing the facial expressions, all of these measurements go a little differently. They change. So this is a face that's not engaging. It's just at rest. All right. What time is it? Okay, cool. All right, one last thing I'm going to show today, and that is the width of your neck, because so many people draw their faces and forget that your head is attached to a body. You have to have a head attached to a body, or else you've just been decapitated, and I don't want that to happen to you. So I'm going to use the corners of the eyes as my guide. I'm going to look at where, if I drew a line straight down, where that's going to touch the chin. And it's about right there. And people look at this all the time and say, that's too wide. My neck isn't that wide. Yeah, it is. Look at her neck. If I draw a line straight down from the outside corner of her eye, her neck is actually wider than that. Let's look at this guy. Outside corner of the eyes, straight down. His neck is wider than that. Looks right though, doesn't it? I mean, it's a real person. His neck is actually pretty close to the width of his eyes. You have so much stuff in your neck. You have your spine, you've got muscles, you've got your trachea, esophagus. So many things are in this space. And if your neck wasn't this wide, your head would flop over because it was a bobblehead. It's like putting an orange on a toothpick. It would just snap. So here's my line I drew. And I'm going to come down onto the underneath the chin. And I'm going to start pretty quickly making a curve going off the page. Now I am going off the page because your body is way too big to fit on this piece of paper. Again, I see things like this where they have tiny necks. This is no way you would, like I said, your head would snap off. And then I see this, and this thing, I swear to God, I don't know what this is. It drives me crazy, but I see people do this all the time. They make these really big shruggy shoulders that are as wide as their body. That is the biggest headed person. Oh my God, you're not a Bratz doll. I don't even know if those things exist anymore, but no, your body is not as wide as your head. So, and it's also not a triangle. I see this too. I don't know what that is. Right? It is this. It is a gentle slope going off the page. If I drew this big enough. Now, this face, I drew it. It's about the size of my hand. Look how tall my hand is compared to the head I drew. That's how big I want you to draw your face when we do it correctly the next time, because then you can fit everything in there nice and with space, and you can measure stuff. It's a lot easier than drawing tiny little, you know, tiny faces. Now I'm going to show you, oops, how wide your head really is, or how wide your body really is. Using my little pencils here. That's how wide his head is. See that? Right at his ears, right where his skull is. And without moving my hands around too much or trying to make this narrower. Look how wide. Oh my God. His shoulder is just touching this outside pencil. Same thing on this side. He's 3 heads wide. 1, 2, 3. Oops. I'm going off the page here. 1, 2, 3. He's 3 heads wide, and so are you. So when you make your shoulders look like this, you're no. So wrong. So wrong on so many levels. All right. Make sure those shoulders are nice and wide so that they can actually, you know, hold everything that's in your body correctly. Okay. So I'm going to stop here today because this is where I've stopped in every other class. Let me put 6th period on the corner here.